is our first lecture in finals. So actually, this is also first topic we're in 2021 right now. It's more on advanced topics, so such as the database connectivity and also through the iOS in terms of application as we go through with the succeeding topics. But for now, we have last topic for Android, which is chapter 6 about persistent data. So just to give you an overview, when we say persistent data, those are the stored values wherein it's saved permanent the file within the information, meaning it's stored in your phone. The data is saved automatically once you generate a different methods. So later on, we're going to discuss those methods. Okay, so now we proceed with objectives. So in this objective, you will learn about project in terms of first application using persistent data. Second is different types of persistent data as well. Different types in terms of the preferences. You could use shared preferences in the two types of storage wherein we could come up with internal and external. So we also tackled here about the network connection using saving data in terms of connectivity in a database as well. Also here, you could write data using shared preferences to instantiate the given object using get string a and put string in terms of the method. So those methods are important in writing information using get string and reading information using put string method. And after those things, we could display an image using control using code. There's steps to complete the app. We have the first ones, we're going to be using the table and images using the drawable folder. We're going to design an XML based on the so we have first and the second activity. Then afterwards, we could instantiate the XML layout based on the control for the first. Then after that, we need to establish a shared preferences using the stored data entered. So meaning the preferences object that detailed in stored procedure as we go through with the step 5. Then on step 6, we're going to write the data based on the shared preference. Then prior for the first activity, now it's the time we could launch the second activity, which is on the step 7. Okay, so after we launch the second activity, then we could instantiate or we could initialize the XML based on the controls given the second. Then after we come up with the controls, we need to retrieve the data using the object. As I mentioned a while ago, we have get string. Okay, we could use that in terms of object. Then on step 10, we need to calculate based on the monthly payment or the display in terms of the images that attach. So meaning we could generate based on the structure of if condition. We could use different loan years. Depend on the user, we could select in a particular years. Then of course this if structure are given. Then on the last part, we could display the monthly payment on the second activity. So there's two activities in generating this topic in terms of the persistent data. Here is the persistent data. So as I told you a while ago, it stores value permanently by placing the information in a file. So meaning within a file, the user would input a particular information, then it will save with a given storage. Okay? So it can be stored on a different ways in terms of applications. So there are different ways to save. It depends on the storage that you have, the SD card or the memory or the phone memory itself. You could use that. As long as there's enough storage, able to save those generated data. Then this is actually the sample of the image or the opening image on the screen. We have electric car financing. So there's here a number of years, car loan amount, interest rate. It's a car payment. Then electric car financing, the second entered or the letter B, persistent data entered. Those are the data. Okay. So these figures is the persistent data that automatically or the user entered and automatically generate the results, and it will save on a given format. Okay. Then in understanding the persistent data, we also have the definition here. We have shared preferences. So meaning shared preferences, those are the private data. So when we say private data is within the values that input by the users, or if the users automatically save the particular information. See? So the key value that could pairs based on the users, and we have here the storage. We could use it in a private internal or the private storage, or you could use that or share that through external in terms of storage. And here also, built in for the private connectivity of the database, we can use as SQLite. Okay? And also, we could also network that through network connection. So we need to come up with a web server or the web services. So different browser will do to open that particular application. So if you're going to have a web server, we need to come up with a Firebase as we go through with the applications. Okay, so as you can see here in figure, card payment computed using person data on a second activity. So automatically, you can see here an image that indicates a 4-year loan. So just simply click that particular year level or the loan for a particular image. Okay. And after that definition, we also have using shared preferences. So you can save those preferences in particular process through edit text control or the edit text control in your layout in XML format. Okay, you could use that based on the given figure. Okay, so you can use to save those different ADT or abstract data type in such a way the preference in percent data actually use only primitive data types. So those are the commonly used int. We could use Boolean, we could use float, string, long. So those are the primitive data type that we can use for. Enable for us to share the preferences. Okay. Next, we have internal. So in terms of internal, those are the information stored directly into your internal drive. So meaning in your phone memory, or if a lot of space that will be fine also, as long as it will save and as long as it's available to create a different apps or created files associated with the different formats. Okay? So be careful also in terms of the low storage. Okay? So that's also part of the internal storage. Then in external storage, as I told you a while ago, you can use SD card or the secure digital card. So typically, you could store that also. All applications can read and write by placing those external storage to your different mobile phones. You can use that on your smartphone, tablets, or your mobile itself. Okay? To use those external storage, the following permissions are needed. So this actually the permissions uses dash permissions. So to give you an overview with the permissions, I have here the site. Okay, so these are the API for the references that you could use. So marami dito na pwede mong gamitin para ma-apply mo sa pag-create ng different constraint layout in terms of API references. So you could use as Kotlin or Java. Later on, look natin yan. So the Android for the name is Android.permission, right? External, meaning you could input a particular permissions and If you want to view, you could read underscore external underscore storage. So actually, if you have your phone that's plug and play, automatically it will pop up that message if you want to read or write. So nowadays, it will show the pop-up message on your screen if you plug your keyboard on your um, on your tablet or on your mobile devices. Automatically will detect. But if you're developing a permission using your laptop, you need the permissions to access the external storage. Okay? Then you can use an SQLite for the databases. So actually, in terms of the data, it's not actually this amount of data that could store in SQLite. Therefore, it's SQLite because it's light of data that could store by the term itself, unlike with other unlike the other databases. Okay? The SQLite available since the Cupcake 1.5 version introduced. So meaning this very or known in terms of database connectivity. Android apps also has a model in terms of getting a tables, columns, and also relation between those databases. So those are required in terms of querying the SQL statements. You already know the SQL statement. I taught you those statements. So therefore, we could use that also as we go through in terms of connectivity, the SQL statement or the structured query language. Okay? We need to adapt those queries. Then, after that, we have to use a network connection using internet. Okay? So, the preferred, of course, depend on your phone. If you're using 3G, 4G, or Wi-Fi connectivity, that will be fine as long as they are connected. Okay? If a connection is not available, the user cannot save or retrieve the present data. Technically, yes, because connected online. This is the creating XML layout based on the creating application name. So elective car financing, that's the name of the application. So still you need to create next button. So I have here the apps for drawable apps for the different images. I have 5, 4, opening, and 3. Okay, so this is the key. So I have hint 1, 2, 3. So hint, you already know the hint, right? So those are the inputs that needs from the user enable for you to generate an appropriate result. Okay, so there's a default value. We have hint 1, key that associated with a given images. So these are the default values. The first hint is number of years. The second hint, car loan amount. The third hint, interest rate. The button is car payment. The image description is number of years image. And the text payment is the monthly payment. This is the string table. So we need this string table in order for us to generate those methods. So later on, the methods are associated with the given string value. Okay? Then, so in creating an XML layout, so I have that image here. So actually, I built that apps already. Wait. I screenshot so that you will see. Okay, this is the screenshot that I made. So this is the drawable. Okay. Then this the strings. Okay, as you can see here, this is the hint 1 to 3. So this the settings. Okay, these are the strings that added based on the figure. Okay, then next, so this my part of my XML, the first activity. Okay, so my first activity, this my text view, control. This my first edit text control, and this my second edit text control, and my third edit text control. I have also here the button control, the image view control. So those are the controls that I made with the first activity. So as you can see, here is the preview. Okay. So here. So back with the presentation. After I created the XML layout, you already know how to create the XML. Now we proceed with the second activity, which is the payment. The payment is my second activity. Then after that, I have here the activity payment. Anyways, you can see it in terms of the different view. So I will magnify so that you can see my codes. Okay, I have here with the image. So the image is figure 11-8. Okay, so that you can see the high contrast of that image. Okay, so it's the high contrast of that image. So here's the second activity. Okay, the activity payment. So this is the first text view control. Okay, the second text view control, then image control. Okay, so take note, we already have the two activity, the main activity and the second activity. Okay, so you already know how to create an activity. After that, we have 11-9. So here, that I show you the edit text controls. So what I did on line 13, I created an onCreate, enable for me to create the different ID. So the first one is for the years, the second one is for the loan, and the third one is for the interest. So those are the edit text control that actually instantiated. So take note, final is the reserved word that has a constant value based on the declared years. Example, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. So that's actually the constant year. Depends on the selection, or it depends on the selection of the user that enables for them to select a different text. Okay. Then I have here on click listener. So on click listener 11-10, so here's the 11-10. The next. Yun, the next na. Okay, good. So this one is for the next figure for the button. Okay, so I added here a button for instantiated control for payment. Again, a while ago, I created the edit text for years, text loan, text interest. So now we proceed with the button, which is a button payment. Then on the on-click listeners tab, so this is actually the on-click view. All you have to do is to create, okay, take note, you need to create a part of the declarations. So this actually the declarations based on the, again, we use a primitive data type. So the primitive data type that we could declare is using int, float, we could use also double, we could use a string, and also boolean. Those are the things that interact with the persistent data as we extend the different classes, which is the class variables of int years, int loan, deck interest. So these are the class variables. And then as you can see here, I created on-click view. So here is the actually preview. This is the on-click view. I added on on-click view on line 26. You can see here on line 26. So here it is, the line 26 for on-click listener. So I added here the int years, int loan, and deck interest. So it's coming from the line 13 to 15. Okay. So I assign the number of years based on the years that get text that to string. So meaning the get text that to string is depend of the years that the user can select. Okay. Then on the second part of int loan is assign the amount of the car loan. Of course, it's being financed based on the selected year. And on line 31, the deck interest is based on the assigned value or the assigned interest rate, such as, for example, I use 1.9% for the law for electric cars. So technically, this float double is assigned based on the declaration. Okay, so I added that on line 31 based on the previous lines. Okay, so on the next line, okay, so what I did, I have here the on line 27, so I have here the final shared preferences. So take note, the shared preferences, the variable name for that method is the shared pref. So preference manager that get default shared preference. When you say get default shared preference, so meaning these are the default value that automatically assigned on the previous. So example, the default value is 1.9. So automatically, it will show here the default value we use as final, because final is the constant value. The default value is 1.9. So still, it depends. If you want to make it 2%, that will be fine as long as you use that on line 31. Okay, so as you can see here, okay, clear? Then after you instantiate the shared preferences, next, we have here now the line 35 to 38. So this actually the persistent data. So again, if you're going to write the shared preferences object, we need to use an editor that put int. When you say put int, int means the integer. For example, put double, okay, put string. So it depends on the data type or it depends on the declaration. Since my declaration is int, so technically put int. If it's dog float, put float. Okay, clear? So simple as that. And take note, we have a key in for the first key of the int years. And the second key is int loan, and the third is deck interest. So those are the editor that we could use to put into place. Okay, so after you have a data written on that object, now we proceed with the editor that commit. When you say editor that commit, automatically it will save the given data. Commit means update the particular process. In SQL, automatically you need to commit, enable for us to update the certain record. Then next, after that, we have to create on line 40 the start activity. Okay? This is actually the second activity that you need to launch, which is the payment. Okay? The payment is our second activity because we are in a main activity. See, okay, next. Now we proceed with the payment.java. So in the Java file, what we need to do is to create the text view in a monthly payment. So this actually the text ID, the text monthly payment that actually instantiated on line 17, followed by the image that actually generated based on the ID of IMG years or image years. This actually the twos or the two on line 16 and 17 are instantiated. This is a payment.java. Then after that, the shared reference object now, we need to insert that on line 21 using this, the default one. Okay? This object is instantiated based on the users that already input. So automatically, it will show the references object. Okay? You can add this. This is actually a keyword with reference with the shared preferences. Next, we have here these references in line 22 to 24. I used to retrieve the number of years based on the span of year, meaning the life of the loan. So until how many years? Okay. In 8 years, shared ref that get it before we input, we put in, now we need to get in. Take note, put in, we need to write, now we need to get a particular input based on the given declarations. So the first key one is 0 as our initialization. Then the second one is a 0 also. Since that's a number, initialization is 0 automatically. If it's float, still 0. Or if you want 0.0, that will be fine. Since it's floats, it's automatically generated based on the given span or based on the given decreased interest. Okay? So the DEC means the decimal. Okay? So clear here? Then after that, after you declare the third key based on the initialization, now we proceed with the format. Okay, of course, we used to have here the float for decimal monthly payment. Way back for the previous, this one is the float deck interest. Then after that, so I added on line 27. Take note, we have here on line 24, 25, 27. So next, I added here the float for decimal or deck monthly payment. So meaning float for monthly payment. Then on line 29, I added the computation. So this is the equation for the monthly payments for the loan. So the computation is based on mathematical operations, of course, based on the given formula that you need to create. So for instance, the formula that I have is the inflow multiplied by open close with the 1 plus a decrease or decimal interest multiplied by the number of years or the 8 years divided by 12. Why is it 12? Simply because in 1 year, there actually 12 months. 12 months times the 8 years. So example, 12 months multiplied by number of years. Example, 2 years. So actually 24. Okay, so this is the equation. Then after you come up with the equation, on line 30, we need to come up with the decimal format. Okay, we have the currency. So as you can see here, we used to have a sharp. Okay, so sharp means the format. Okay, the dollar sign, comma, if needed. If not, that will be fine. Comma is actually a separator between the numbers. Okay, and the flame says between the decimal point. So meaning there's a decimal point here and there's a 2 decimal places. So meaning there are 2 hashtags. So as you can see here, so the digit is 1, 2, 3 digits. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2. Here. So this actually the format of the decimal. So you also mix that if you want, as long as you need to declare the hashtag sign. Okay? Or you need to input, rather. Then next, so in displaying the monthly payment as a result, so I added here on line 31, monthly payment that set text. So the monthly payment plus the currency format. So this actually the currency format that we have. Then multiply the decimal monthly payment. So that it will give you a formatted result. Okay. Then after you come up with a formatted result, so that's the time that you need to create the if structure. So meaning there's a condition. Okay. So the condition is based on the 3-year loan. Okay. So we have here example. So we just continue the line. So after that line 31, let's receive the line 32. So on line 32, we have if open close the 8 years. So since the 3-year loan, so we start for 3. So 8 years is equal to 3. Then the image that's set so as 3. Then if it's 4, then the image will set as 4. It's 5. The image will set as 5. So there's an else if structure for 4 to 5 years loan. 3, 4, 5. So we initialize as 3 going through the 4 and 5. So this is actually part of the instantiated of a given condition. So the condition is based on that line. Okay. Then after it's selected, that's a time on line 38 to 40 with end up with else. So else if, then else if the monthly payment set with 3, 4, or 5 years. Example, I entered 3, I entered 4, I entered 5. That's a given statement. So closing the else statement for user that did not enter 3, 4, 5. So else, papasok siya dito. So kaya nga, if else. Okay? Simple as that. So else, unlike a while ago, there's no else. Else if. So I inserted the else in line 38. Okay? Just like a continue or the continuation for that payment. Next. So here is the put string. As I said, the data is saved in the file as key1 values based on the presentation. Is either string, int, long, float, or boolean. This is actually the primitive data types. And these are actually the shared preference classes. Put, okay. I already discussed that. Okay. I already did that. And in terms of retrieving preferences, I use to come up with a get. Get in terms of get string, get it, get long, float, boolean, as long as it's declared. There's no problem with that, as long as declared, so that we could retrieve. So the syntax already given. Okay, so this syntax, I already explained this. So yeah, I explained those retrieving preferences. I also added here the preferences, and in terms of the image, I also select an image view control based on the source path. So if there's a source path given, you need to set. If none, so you need to add another text as you wish. Okay? So those are the image view control. So I already added here. I already also this one. Yeah, I also explained this. Okay, so as a summary, when data users enter in and take note, we need at least a data that is assigned in RAM or in your internal external data as long as it's saved. So on the other hand, it's stored also in a different devices. And also in persistent data, it can be stored based on the shared preferences. So we have here the SQLite databases. We have here the network connections. We could use a shared preferences using a primitive data type. So those are the booleans, floats, int, longs, and strings. Okay, so this is part of the summary. And also, we could use a string as put data type and get data type as part of the methods. So those are the summaries. So anyway, by next meeting, we could start doing the apps in SQL. Okay, so for now, thank you for listening and have a nice day. Bye.